Hello all. So this is the fifth part and not quite the conclusion, final part of the conclusion for investigating bivariate data 3.9 NCEA Level 3 standard. I've got one more that I'm going to make on part of something you can consider when you are writing your conclusion. So let's have a look at what you should write in a conclusion for bivariate. So the first thing is you need to make sure you're summarizing everything. So you want to summarize the relationship between the data, so making sure that you talk in context about the data and perhaps talk about what you thought was going to happen and what has happened, and back that up with some research. Research throughout is still important in this standard, so we do want to actually show that we're understanding what is going on and why we believe it happened, and what other people have found out that thing happened. We'll talk about the appropriateness of our linear model. So we always fit a linear model regardless, but we do want to make sure that when we pick our data, that a linear model is probably appropriate. It helps us to do the whole investigation. So the appropriateness of the linear model, we talk about whether it fitted well or how useful it is, and therefore the fact that we can use it to make predictions or estimates on the response variable from the explanatory variable. We want to link back to the purpose mentioned at the beginning, so who we thought this might be useful to and why, and perhaps go into that one in a little bit more depth, and any further investigation and interesting things that came up when you were doing your analysis. So we're talking here about groups and outliers, perhaps the scanner around the graph, the steepness of the line, the ends of the line where they might not be appropriate, or anything that you can find that might be worth discussing to show that you are actually completing an investigation into this particular set of data. So this is a very basic example of a conclusion. This would get you achieved. In conclusion, I think there is a moderately strong positive relationship between weight and BMI of athletes. So I've restated what I've found. The heavier an athlete is, the higher their BMI would be. That's the linear relationship. A linear model seemed to fit well with this data, and therefore if we know the weight of an athlete, we should be able to predict their BMI, or close to. This is useful for trainers in knowing that weight is linked to BMI and health. So I haven't gone into anything really well in depth there. This would be just a basic achieve. To get more than that, I would need to talk about more in-depth discussion. Please note that if you find a very weak relationship, if you do an investigation that has a very weak relationship, or many other factors suggesting a linear model isn't appropriate for your data, you can't say a linear model fits well. So you want to say something like a linear model does not fit this data well, meaning I cannot use my model to help me make predictions. All right, so make sure that you say the right thing. Other things you could discuss, so further reflection on your model. Would another model have fitted better, a nonlinear model or a piecewise model, where different models are applied to different parts of the graph? What other variables could have been considered in this investigation? So is there something that you haven't considered from these two data that actually could have an impact on both of them? Is there another variable that could make an impact, or linking the two under the investigation? And any further research on the investigation. So when you're talking about other variables, you're sort of thinking, does weight and height have a relationship? Yes, they do. But why do they have a relationship? And it could be that you actually need to add in age, because age does affect your height for the first 20 years of your life, and obviously it also affects your weight in that first 20 years. So although weight and height have a relationship, age is a dominant factor if you were looking at the weight and age of 0 to 20-year-olds. So just make sure you're talking about the right things. Well, good luck with your investigation, and I hope you found this useful. Thank you for listening.